Hi everyone, my name is Pawan, and if you've seen my previous videos, you would by now know that I'm trying to record videos of questions which do get asked during front-end interview questions. Uh, for this video, I'm going to cover a very common question. I do think this is asked in a lot of places. Uh, so that's flatten. Uh, Cool. Let's go ahead with implementing it. So what is flatten? It converts an array of multiple levels into a single flat level. There is already a pre-built function now in ES6. You can call it .flat, where you can do that with the pre-built function. But let's go ahead with implementing this. First thing you're going to do is we're going to check if the value is an array. If it's not an array, let's just return an empty array. And or the value dot length is 0, right? So you just return an empty array. Now I'm going to use a higher order function, which is reduce. Reduce to me is a very powerful function. You can actually build everything using reduce. You can do map, you can do for each, you can do filter using reduce. So let's go ahead and use reduce over here. So we're going to use value dot reduce. Reduce accepts two values. One is the accumulator, and the second is the current value. And you need to pass it the initial value to reduce. So in this case, the initial value is going to be an empty array. If you don't pass this, then you're going to get into trouble because it takes the initial value based on what you're supplying over here. So now let's check if the current is an array. And if it is an array, what you're going to do is you're going to take the accumulator and you're going to concat the current by flattening it again, which is calling it recursively. Okay, if it is not, you're going to do accumulator dot push dot current, and you're going to return the accumulator. So what we have done over here is we check for an array. If it is an array, we are going to do a concat, but the important part is you're going to use flatten again by recursively calling it. And if not, you're just going to push the value into it. This is a very simple implementation. You do get asked usually an additional aspect to this question. I'll cover that after I run this test and see if everything is running fine. So all the initial tests work, all the advanced tests work. So sometimes you might just say that you might get a point where they might state that there is a second value to it, which says that you are going to flatten it only up to 2 levels. You could get a second value called flatten, and you could get a value to it which says that only flatten till 2 levels. After that, don't flatten it. Now, what do you do as part of it? So let's get the level, which can be 0 in this case. What you're going to do in this, what you're going to do is you're going to only add a check over here that if level exists, right? So level is 1. It has to be by default 1. So if level exists, and what you would do is to the flatten the second time when you're calling it, you're going to decrement the value of the level. It's a very simple change. Now what will happen is once it recursively calls flatten again, the next time it's going to pass level below the current level. And then when it comes into this condition, if the value was 2, it would become 1. And then if the value was 1, it would become 0. After that, it's only going to push into the array. It's no longer going to do a concat, which is what we expect and which is what we want. Technically, if we, so I mean, in this case, I didn't pass the correct level, so it didn't work. But if you get the levels being asked to you, then just remember this is what you would basically need to implement. You would just need to take the level, and then you would need to keep decrementing the level every time whenever you want the flattening to stop, any more concating into the array, but just pushing into the array. Cool. Thanks, folks. I'll stop recording.